Greetings, and what is this button? Stop recording. They have new buttons now on Zoom. Okay. Is this recording? It's recording. Okay. So you can actually pause a recording now. That's pretty cool. All right. So welcome to the, what month is this? November 1st, 2016 Elder meeting. Wait a minute. That would be the second for other parts of the world. Regardless, whatevs. Be it a Tuesday or a Wednesday or whatever. Thank you for attending. Your gracious amount of XP has been awarded. More XP will be given at the end of the event. You'll notice it's a random number because the points are made up and the XP doesn't matter. So anyway, we do have quite a nice variety of topics. So if you would go into the Elder community, which some of you are now using, thank you very much for posting in the Elder community. We're going to jump into the November Elder meeting, and you will see that there is now a group photo or an event photo that is new as of today, where you can actually upload a event photo standard as part of the event in the community. And so the first topic that we are going to cover is the addition of a shield type. This came about because I ordered a bunch of shields to do reviews on, not realizing, oh crap, some of these are not legal. So we wanted to, and then you take a look at some of the Forgotten Dreams stuff and you start looking at other manufacturers that have stuff, and well, I don't know, a good portion of them are not legal because they approach the 60-inch mark. What I think we were trying to do with the 45-inch max was to have it where people couldn't carry shields that were so obscenely large that they were taller than the player, which presents a safety hazard when you're running. They'll try to run with a big shield and it's hard to manage, that kind of thing. So, but I guess the first topic, as you can see there, if you open that thread up, is the introduction. Some of you have had some time to talk it over with your elders, perhaps play test it, or at least try to give some insight to it. I appreciate you giving some feedback to it. So we're talking about adding one ability called Big Tower Shield to involve more of the shields that are manufactured. So if we look at it, the cleave point value is 5. It's the highest level. The big XL Tower Shield was 4. Max length, 65 inches or 165 centimeters. Max width, 45 inches, 114 centimeters. It's the largest shield we allow. Player wielding this must prove that they have the ability to safely hold and carry the item. Now that was put in there because we realized from the orc ability of dual handing two-handed weapons that some people are physically incapable of safely handling two-handed weapons. So that allows elders to make a safety call. If you see somebody carrying a big, ridiculously huge Big Tower Shield, and it's very obvious that they present a risk to themselves or others because they can't manage it, they can't hold it up, elders can then say, look, you're not able to manage this safely. So elders can take that out of the game again. And then the shield cannot be taller than the player when standing. That was put in there so that, 6-year-old Link can't try to hold a 65-inch tower shield when he is only 48 inches tall. If we don't put that in there, somebody's going to do it. Can you see any other possible things we would want to add? I mean, we don't want to make this really wordy. Nick, go ahead.
Now, because this is the largest shield, it always makes me think of the Pavis or Pavice, which is the crossbowman's shield. They just freestand and can hide behind. Is there some way to possibly incorporate a freestanding shield, or into this, or would that not work?
Yeah, historically we have seen some of that. Um, Raylick, I'm going to utilize a couple of your historians here that are in here. I know that there's mention of movable sections of the wall, aka shields that are big enough to actually stand on their own. That presents a very interesting topic where you're blending almost like a siege shield with a shield that you can carry.
What it was you would have an archer and a shieldman, and all the shieldman did was carry that really big shield and then would brace it so the archer could shoot behind it and hide behind it.
Okay. So that could possibly, like, this doesn't really fall into that category. I don't think it's big enough for that. Would you agree or disagree?
I would agree it's probably not big enough. I mean, it's under 6 feet tall. Most of those are 7 to 8 feet tall and probably 4 feet wide.
So we
Like I
could
said,
pop,
two-man team.
okay. I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if
Sorry.
anybody else.
Used with a two-man team.
Okay. So possibly we could look at this in the future for adding some kind of siege wall, movable wall. I don't know if it would fall into siege more than it would fall into shield, because it almost requires 2 or 3 people like the siege weapons do to safely manage that.
I'd just like to bring up that what Relic is describing is, I think, is the mantlet, which is the movable wall,
Which is similar to
a siege wall. The Pavis was actually a probably neck-high shield that the crossbowmen could hide behind. It wasn't like super tall. It wasn't, yeah. So
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and put that in the Elder section as a possible addition. I think that would work nicely to siege weapons to give them a little different flavor, more of a defensive stance as opposed to offensive, which everything in siege weapon is. I don't think that would be too hard to play test either. But somebody has to write it up. So looks like Nick and Raylick, you guys have a good handle on this. Why don't you go ahead and put it in there, and I'm going to delegate those responsibilities. Maybe we can talk about it by next event, or by next Elder meeting to see if it would pass.
I was going to talk about it Friday.
We can talk about it Friday. We can actually test it.
Another thing that we could consider putting in wording, and this is just a consideration, I'm not super attached to the idea, but you said there's an issue concerning people running with a very large shield. What if, because it is a very large shield, and if you said something like the size or smaller of a police, you would not go into a dead sprint with that thing, probably. What if you just say, like an undead, you can't run while wielding a shield this size?
Shield encumbers movement.
I would say that would work for shield wall. I don't know. I've had a chance to test this large 65-inch shield, and I can say with utmost certainty that I am fully comfortable in a dead sprint with full armor with that on my arm. Epic Armory makes their shields in such a fashion where you can mount it vertically or horizontally. So, and like you can even put it in heater shield where you can go crossways. But it's definitely worth mentioning. That's like the larger the shield, the more risk. You know, if someone's really, really tired and they catch that shield on something, I mean, what's the possibility that because it's strapped to their arm that they break their arm or dislocate their shoulder? I mean, how much of that do we need rules for? How much of it is common sense? How much of it is something that's adminable by elders?
The reason why I bring that up, though, is while, it'd be easy to run with a big foam shield, like imagine if it was made of metal or wood, it would be very cumbersome to move that thing at a quick pace. It's something that large. Foam is a little bit more forgiving in that sense.
Okay. So are you proposing to add the wording of not allowed to run with a big tower shield?
Yeah, I'd at least like to bring that up for consideration. If anybody else has like a serious objection to that, I'd be more willing to hear it. But I think that's something we could consider with adding this.
Raylick, go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, I don't disagree with that. You have met some of our players, right?
Yep. Yeah, they're kind of clumsy.
Like I said, you have met some, right?
Okay, so show of hands favor of adding the wording of not being allowed to run with these shields. Okay. Motion is passed. All in favor. Any opposed? All right, we'll add that wording then and put it into the playbook for 2017.
I don't know if you noticed, Artenon, but Pat made a comment about a weight limit in the chat.
Oh, yeah, I can't see the chat. I apologize. My screen doesn't allow me to see both things here.
He said, should the shield have a weight limit so people don't make like crazy heavy shields?
Well, I think with not allowing them to run, that takes away a lot of the hazard. The other contemplation that we come up with from time to time is people using plywood as their core. Originally, we were like, no. Now, whatever. If you're going to honk a big honk of wood to your arm, you're going to carry it for about an hour before you're not going to carry it anymore. It's your fault. It's basically like strapping on 40 pounds of armor and be like, oh, I can only walk around for like a mile. Yep, well, that takes real training. I don't know. But you know, I'm not about to say, hey, let's change the core shield design. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I don't know. Do we put a weight limit on this thing? We got weight limits on some of the things because those are swung weapons. That's why there's a weight limit on them, to protect the combatant from inertia, excessive inertia, which is kind of, we just don't want people putting sand in their PVC cores.
So I think the size limit itself will be the factor that limits the weight anyway. So
you won't know how heavy it's going to get until you make it. So it's going to be a bit of trial and error, I think, to start with.
Yeah, if you make these shields, they're quite a bit thicker than if you buy them manufactured. So,
and people will want to make their own.
I guess I would say from an admin standpoint, elders still have the ability to deny something based on that weight. If it's just not safe for somebody to use, you can just see that that's not safe to use. So just elders can say that. That's part of their duties. If we do have a problem with it though, Patrick, I think we could, let's monitor that. If we need to have a weight limit on shields, we can look at and address that. But let's play with it and see what we got for this. We've never had a weight limit problem with shields before, so, but we've never had a shield this big before. All right. Everybody good on that subject? All right. The next subject is kind of a touchy one with some of us in Wisconsin, and some other hosts had to deal with this as well. I would like to go off a little bit to try and make sure that people understand the difference between host and colony. There's a lot of hosts out there still using the word that they call themselves a colony, and I'd really like to break that, because colony is really going to come up in game a lot coming up as we get more players. So the host, if you could use your LARPcraft of whatever name, call yourselves hosts. Try to stay away from colony unless you're talking about in-game stuff. That would be appreciated. It's just going to help us make the easier transition when land titles and stuff start happening, when villages start appearing, when groups start making that stuff happen. So I know it's hard to break. I am so guilty of it myself, but
I think the issue is that there's not a word for the group. The host refers to what we used to call the chief elder, but that doesn't really, it's not a really good word for the group as a whole out of game. So without lacking a word for the out of game group that we have here, what do we call it? I think that's why people end up referring to it as a colony.
Wouldn't it just be Lovecraft of Springfield in your case?
Yeah, that's a really long thing to spit out every time I want to refer to the group.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I have no options.
I don't have a solution. I just am suggesting that this is possibly the reason why it's occurring.
I'd agree. There's really no good way to say, well, I mean, I don't know. I still just say Lovecraft of Sheboygan or our club, I would say. I don't know.
What about like a base of operation?
Not bad. I give you merit for suggesting. Other groups call it other things. What are some other names that people call things? The group that runs things.
I usually refer to myself as the host of the Rapids group when somebody asks.
The Rapids group, the Sheboygan group. I mean, I guess you could use it with any of the.
And then I explained to him that, we're Akuma Forest, in game, blah, blah, It just separates okay, you're talking to me as Doug, not Rollick,
Right.
compared.
Yeah, it was, yeah, had we been able to keep Colony out of the game and out of the lore, but players, hosts, elders, everybody made that part of the lore, and it was just the process of evolution with Lovecraft. So I don't really have a good example. Maybe we just let's put our heads together through the next month and try to come up with some alternatives to, if you're going to call yourself, what would be something to replace Colony with?
Awesome.
Awesome? Just call ourselves awesome? Yeah, I like that. Awesome LARP group.
It would come from you, Bex. You are awesome.
And keep in mind that the name that you come up with has to be equally represented in Genesis, Wild West, Galactic, Post-Apocalyptic, whatever that name is. All of these systems, the host is able to be part of. So it's really hard coming up with a name to represent that except host or Lovecraft of whatever, because you're going to have the option of all these game systems. So
I'm going to jump in here and actually refer to the chat, not that you can see that, but Ludophagus has actually suggested district or branch. I really like branch.
Yeah, branch is pretty cool.
Some games use chapter.
Branch is good, chapter's good. This is great. This will make some good dialogue as I'll post those suggestions after the meeting with the meeting notes, and then we can continue to, those are great. Branch makes it, you are an individual, but you're part of a larger picture. People get that connection without much explanation. That was good. Chapter works good.
From tree.
Branch of a tree. Okay, getting back on the topic, the official disciplinary process creation. We had a recent problem. I'm trying to see the chat here. Luckily, I got a big monitor here to see, but branch of a tree, tea tree. All right. Sorry. I'm just now picking up on the chat, which if you're viewing this later, you can't see anyway. Eventually, they should be able to record the group chat. I think that would be a viable thing to add to Zoom.
Actually, can I just bring something up about that? Why not just copy and paste it at the end into a document?
Because that's an awful lot of reading.
You know, you come up with the simplest things, Nick, and they're just brilliant. You know, it would be so easy for one of us to just copy and paste that sucker and put it in the meeting notes.
All right.
Huzzah. Okay. Mark for Beck. Mark for
There's
Nick.
also programs that you can use online that will allow you to take notes and actually tag them with the time in the video that they occurred.
Good things to do. Good things to look at if we want to incorporate them. I'm just happy that you elders figured out where to click on the site to find the meeting. I know some of them who aren't here physically and mentally just could not find it. So
I did need help from Draven, so
and what I'm trying to do with Pat, if you're listening, if we could get all of those menus on top to be listed on a side menu, we could really use a sidebar menu item that would be a little bit cleaner. I know a few of you can pay me 50 XP. He's now wanting ransom for work like that. Okay, that's good stuff. Too bad you're not the only HTML programmer on this chat. So here we go. And now the bickering begins on the chat, just so you're aware. But anyway, having clear menu items are really a necessity. And because now the groups, the chats you have, follow the permissions. So like if you post a picture in the elder section, it won't be visible to the general public now. I think the chats are the same way, whereas if you posted a forum post before in the recent posts, it would show the header. It wouldn't follow the group permissions, but I think that's fixed now. I haven't had a chance to test it with the forum posts, but we can try that. But if there's a suggestion for the site, feel free to post it in the elder section of how to make this site more user-friendly. And I know a lot of you are not used to some of the features we have yet. Please be gentle. We're trying to make the menus and stuff. I think we have collectively on Larpcraft now, we have all the tools we need. So we just got to make it easier to find. And a darn good menu system would do that. But anyway, fix mark scrolls as red. Nick, I cannot replicate your problem. And neither can Pat. When we hit mark all scrolls red or mark forums red, it makes them red. I don't know. Maybe you have a button problem? It could be that's what made your hard drive crash. I'm not sure. Oh, okay. But back to a more serious topic here, the disciplinary process of Larpcraft. Now, we don't have a lot of problems with our players, luckily. We have a very good elder team. We have a fairly good process of how we inform players of all the processes, but there's some times where there's going to be problem players. And the more people you get in your group, the greater the chance you'll see this from time to time. So collectively as Larpcraft, we are all of the branches within this tree. Making the reference. And I would really like it to be where if Book bans a player in Missouri, they can't travel up here 8-10 hours and come to our game and expect to play. I believe that legitimately, if one host has a bad apple, that bad apple will be a bad apple all over. You know, the poop will still stink no matter where they play. Would you agree to that? Book's frozen. I'm not sure if she's saying yes or no. She's just diligently holding her hat. There she is. Okay.
Sorry about the freezing. My internet sucks. But yes, I think if one host has a bad apple, they're going to be bad no matter where they go.
So we have
experience from another game. They you could suspend or ban from the local level. The larger group could choose to uphold that, and then the other larger groups could also choose to uphold that if they wanted to, but it wasn't necessarily a required thing.
I think that's kind of what Greycore had suggested. I don't know if it was posted or not. We had some audio conversations, phone calls between a few of our groups here in Wisconsin to put the process down of the difference between expelled, banned, permabanned. Like some things it's like bad, come back next game. Other things are like bad, come back next season. And the final things are you are no longer allowed at anything. But we don't have a real process. It's happened so few times. I don't think we really have a official disciplinary process. Pat made a sexual comment, for those of you who can't see, and that's why everything's, yes, we're not going to go in there, though. That's for elders after hours. Would somebody be willing to write up a draft for the official disciplinary process that we would all adhere to? Somebody who has human resource experience or any kind of training in that regard. Do you want to try it?
Lodo's really good at punishing people.
Well, that's an option. I think Rayla could do that too. You know, if you just get too.
What, beat him into submission? I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, fists are the final option. No.
Because I know with the armored combat I do in the SCA, if we have a bad actor, we have what we call a marshal's court, where we'd have like the elders or the hosts of the SCA community get together and figure out actually what's going on before we just tell somebody, oh, by the way, we don't ever want to see you again. Unless it's a criminal thing, then, yeah, by the way, we never want to see you again, and the cops are taking you away.
And the reason we don't want this to become an issue is because we've seen some of the other groups, some of the other bigger groups are now having some fairly big press with underage drinking and smoking and inappropriate stuff. It's destroying them. It's destroying their reputation, and it's actually, you know, we don't wish ill on any of those groups, but it's really wrecking the community for LARP as a whole. So let's not, I don't want us to fall into that trap. So Lodo, if you want to put something together, perhaps post it in the elder forums, then we can all help you with that, if you can. Okay. There's something along that line too that I was going to tell you. or something that goes along with that. I don't know. We had the stocks in the scrolls at one time. That was a public embarrassment to try to deter people from never being in the public. That didn't work. That just pissed people off, and people didn't like it. So an official process will be out of game, probably not in the public eye, unless it has to be. But with the disciplinary process, kind of with that, having alcoholic games. I don't know if you saw, quite a few of us enjoy drinking while we're with our friends at a social event like LARP. However, there's a time and a place for it. And if we can, as elders, strategize on when alcohol can be allowed. Pepper?
At the Warsong LARP that Sam and I sometimes attend in Queensland, they allow drinking, but they follow like the driving rules. So you can have like 1 drink per hour, or whatever. But if you go over it, it's the same. If you can't drive, you can't fight. So if you want to drink, that's cool, but you won't be fighting all day.
And that's kind of how we had things set up the past few years, and it kind of got muddy because what people try to do is create a social drinking atmosphere in the game, and then some of the stuff you want to do in the game can't be done because now half your players are yellow banded. And me as an NPC, I would go to the people who were drinking because I knew they couldn't fight back, and it was their punishment for drinking in the game. That's not right either. How I did Esker's game, because I like drinking pretty much a lot, and I broke the Esker game recently into the drinking social hour stuff is Friday night. The game doesn't start till Saturday. So if you want to drink, Friday night we're gonna let loose, probably break character a little bit, have some fun around the fire, but there's no fighting. We're trying to role play, but the game hasn't officially started till Saturday.
Yeah, like save the drinking for the campfire type business.
Yeah, but then there's campfire in-game though too. So like we're discouraging people from drinking while the event is actually on. So from Saturday morning through Sunday morning, that's game on, and you probably shouldn't be drinking. But if you want to let loose a little bit and have some fun with your friends who you haven't seen for a while and you're excited to see them, I mean, that's the way I am. That first day, it's all giddy because I just haven't seen these people for a while. The Friday night fun can be that.
I've seen this done really well at a game before, and the way that it was done was we arrived Friday, we played Friday into Saturday. Saturday night, the game actually ended, and alcohol wasn't allowed out until after the game had ended. So it was kind of like, hey, we finished the game, yay, awesome, great weekend. Now we get to drink and hang out. And that worked really well because nobody ended up having to be metagame or having to be yellow banded, which, by the way, as an NPC, if you're picking on the drunk people, that's metagaming, and metagaming is wrong.
I'll still do it.
Book, I think we proved at Meadowmere that at Whisper Ridge, we don't need drinking to have fun.
It's true. I run a dry game every year, and we had a blast.
I don't know. Elsevier lost a leg, and I'm just saying, maybe if he was drunk.
Okay, he lost a leg, yes. But the shenanigans that Shaden's referring to was more along the lines of the Body Bard competition that went on. There was no drinking involved, but I'm just going to say I need one word to describe how bad this word this was, and it's poobah. And anybody who was there knows that was all you need to know. Poobah.
So,
It kind of got worse after that too.
What? It did get worse after that, yeah. But you can have a ton of fun without alcohol, or you can have a ton of fun with alcohol. You just have to be careful about it. And the best I've seen it done is like we played and played and played. Game was called for the event, and then we drank.
So I think whether it's before the event starts or after the game ends, we're all in agreement that during the game we should really discourage or eliminate drinking from the game itself, if possible. It just avoids any possibility of problems.
And really, it's not that much to ask. Can you go 7 hours without drinking? We'll have a drink at the end of the game. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, are you there to drink or are you there to LARP?
Locally, we just say if Sully can go that long without drinking, then anybody else can.
Yeah, I have fun at Midland. That's a dry event. Whisper Ridge was a great event. Didn't have, but some of the stuff in LARP that we've done and we were drinking, it was also a unique, fun experience. So I guess all I'm asking in this topic is just to plan it accordingly and try to have it so that alcohol cannot be meshed with physical melee anything. Heck, even walking on a dark trail, intoxicated, that sort of thing.
Oh, agreed. There have been some great events where the majority of us were smashed by the end of it, but you don't want to, we call it the drunken stumble after you get drunk and then you have to find your way back to your cabin. And it happened to me at an event in Galderwood this year. And it was trying to get back to my cabin. It required 3 people to get me back there. Well, 2 people to carry me and 1 person to heckle. But those are good times. Those are good stories. You just have to be safe about it.
Anybody else on anything that we need to talk about with alcohol? I mean, it was kind of again, it's ruined other groups. It's ruining other LARP groups right now. So we need to nip this thing in the butt and probably put something in writing. We have some pretty good safety rules about it, and the yellow band thing is really great, but the concept doesn't really work when if we have 500 people at a game, good luck. So, and some of you have been part of the larger groups where stuff can get out of hand, so you know very well how fast an elder team could be overwhelmed. So we'll try to put something in board, really.
All I'm going to say on that is I've been at events to the SCA where there have been stripper poles.
And that's another topic. That's a good topic to bring out, family appropriateness, and when the kids go to bed, because some of the stuff at Whisper Ridge was, oh my God, not appropriate for kids. But they did a good job of making sure that all the kids were in bed or not at that camp for those more adult theme role plays. And we're not talking like, get naked and have orgies. We're talking content of adults. Kids should not be hearing it kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that our game system doesn't get nailed with something inappropriate like that with kids, because that'll end a group. And it can drag the whole system down with it.
We were real specific with that BARD competition and the stuff that ensued afterwards. Like, there was only 1 person under 18 in that particular area, and the only reason he was allowed was because his parents were sitting there with him and could remove him at any point. But other than that, every other person under 18 was told, you have to even get out of this camp. They were sent up to the Fox's Den. They were not even allowed to be in that same camp during that, because it was bad. It was really bad. At one point, we made somebody pee their pants, and another person fell out of their chair. So it was a fun time. But yeah, we made sure all of the underage players were out of there for that.
I haven't laughed myself into a crying fit in
Wait, was
years.
it you that peed your pants, Lieutenant?
I did not pee my pants. I was not the one who peed my pants.
I
No,
believe
that was
the
Zephyr.
underage.
It was the most fun I've had probably at an event in years. It was just the amount of mental capacity of the people playing the board game, being able to connect all these dots was impressive. But that it was that funny continually for like 45 minutes solid,
With no alcohol.
it was, I mean, sure, a lot of it was out of game. A lot of it was out of character. But it was hilarious. It was unrepeatable and how awesome it was.
Which means, Bex, that I'll tell you later.
By the way, where are the photos from Whisper Ridge? I haven't seen any yet.
Rana was going through those, and she's hiding now because we've been super busy after Whisper Ridge, and several of us have been sick, and so we're working on it. We have photos.
I haven't gotten to it yet. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, and again, this is something that we learned, and I continue to fail at, is if you don't, some of the photographers have spoiled us in some of the games where they will post the pictures literally 4 hours after they like get home, they shower, and as they're showering, they're uploading. So LARPers get spoiled with, they get to see all the cool action shots. While that's kind of unrealistic, the momentum of how awesome it was gets lost every day you don't post those. So the way to make it viral is to post it when people are excited about it and want to share it. And the longer you wait, the less they want to share it.
I'll tell you honestly what it was. We had those pictures within 48 hours, but we have to sort through every single picture, and I'll tell you why. If you guys remember, Rebecca Reed, who plays Bridget, was our NPC master for that event, and she was amazing. But she may or may not have been supposed to be at that event according to her work, and we cannot post any pictures of her at that event. So we had to go through with like a fine-tooth comb and make sure that there are 0 pictures of Rebecca at that event.
Well, that's a new one. That puts a lot of strain on the host and on the LARPcraft branch.
It does, but less so than if we hadn't had her, because she was amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't have the video. I was going to put the pictures in the video too at the end and stuff to make it a nice collaboration, but I might just do the video. But now that ruins it if that person can't be in the video.
That person cannot be on the video. If you send me the footage, I can tell you if she is. But if you remember the girl who was the NPC Narhenan from that event, and various other NPCs, but that was the biggest one that she played. She cannot be seen online or tagged in anything or in any pictures related to that event because she wasn't there.
We've all done a bit of that.
That sucks. The big suck. The amount of disappointment and anger in my brain right now is pretty hard to comprehend. It's going to take hours to edit that video because it's 360 video. It's going to take even more hours or make it I won't be able to use it if it breaks the footage by taking that person out.
I will check with her and see if enough time has passed that it can be posted. I think it should be okay as long as she's not tagged in it.
It should be fine because I don't tag anybody because I don't remember anybody's names. So.
Yeah, I'll check with her about that.
Okay.
It's kind of easy to do. I can just, yell in the other room.
All right. Because you'd be the first 360 LARP adventure video. That would be awesome.
Oh, Go check with her.
I didn't get a lot of action, but the stuff I did get was pretty funny. Okay, on the site updates, we're trying to make the groups more and more available. As you saw, there was a laundry list of things that were updated. A lot of the requests that you had posted last event, change group ownership, we can do that now. Allow privacy setting changes, we can do that now. Something by group, I can't read my own writing. Permissions by group, I think that's in there. Alt accounts not showing up, we're still working on that. There's some kind of permission error with the 6,845 user groups that we have in Lordcraft. And somewhere there's a problem. So Pat, if you can hear me, the alt account addition to the program, like Rainith and some others are having problems where they see a blank page. Almost everybody else is experiencing normal page, but if you go into her permissions, I tried to put her permissions on like Blaz and I couldn't replicate the problem. So I don't know if it's a user refresh. I reset the caches. I don't know. So we'll talk about that as the development team.
And it's not just her. There are other characters too that we've had the same problem with. Like I went into Mordecai's because he's got an alt the other day and got the same blank page.
All right, we'll take a look.
I have a blank page too.
Okay. For those of us who it does work for, it works pretty freaking fabulous because you don't need another password or an email. It's pretty cool. So we want to get it working for everybody. All right. One other thing I'd like to bring up, I have a sample here. I printed off a calendar. So the printer can print off these really, really nice calendars. And I thought, what better thing to have at LARP conventions and gamer conventions and stuff that we could possibly use as fundraisers or whatever than a actual calendar where we can put our game dates and stuff on, or we can put it on there. And then what we did for the clubs for this calendar was make a sheet where they can put their calendar dates, and then we add it to the calendar. The calendar template takes moments to update. It's really simple, but we just need the right images. And I've gotten complaints that the stock images that I buy the licenses for are not us. Well, that's great. We need to do some photo shoots. We need to get some stuff that we can actually stage that looks really good. But the costuming has to be really good. The garb has to be really good. The actor or the people in the images you have to feel that intensity, and that's the stuff that's hard to replicate in some cases. So, but I would way rather use our branch images. Let's see, what was the other word for that? Our chapter images. So from images from each chapter. Which one sounds better? Branch? So, branch, yeah. So each of the Lordcraft branches would need to submit images and get us the game dates. Is that possible? Probably not. But there is hope. The force is strong with you. I can feel it. And I think we could have a calendar either for a region or Lordcraft as a whole. And again, maybe we send 15, 20 to each at $5. You sell it for $10, make $5 on it, whatever. I don't know. Something as a fundraiser, if we can make it a fundraiser. If not, we just have a nice calendar. It's a neat thing to hand out to people. Rainith, I would really like to get some other graphic artists together and try to come up with some really dynamite kick rear end marketing material for a trifold, because we can print or send out for trifolds and business cards and things that we need to have stuff to hand out when we're going to games and we're going to practices and when we're going to other people's events. that just looks so good. And I'm not really the best at that. So I'm also very bad at delegating that duty to anybody.
We can talk.
All right. Anybody else too? If you're watching this later and you got somebody who can do graphic art stuff, maybe we'll make a group community private thing for just the graphic artists of Larkcraft. But we really need some other stuff.
That's why all my stuff looks so good. I have Angela and I have Myra. I have 2 graphic artists.
But you're also extremely busy, and I don't want to overwork people with this stuff. But at the same time, I don't want it to look stupid when it could look freaking awesome. So, anybody have any questions about the groups as a whole? Like if you go through and look at the different groups that are available, we're starting to see some stuff now. I know, Raylick, you posted something about a group called The Hood or something. I kind of hid that. Wasn't sure what that was. Right now, elders have the ability to make groups. And that was done on purpose so that you guys can break it. Try to find things that are wrong or things that don't make sense. And eventually what we want to do is still have it where groups are monitored in a sense that somebody can't make a group called F this, mother effer or something or other. You know, like there has to be something in there that elders or admins or something can approve.
Yeah, I was just trying that out because we were going to make some alts to be our bad guys.
Okay.
And I was playing with it.
Okay, good deal. I just wanted to make sure. So play around with that. It's a really, really powerful part of the site, the group community stuff. And it can really keep everything together, give you the custom URL, do all your events and stuff. And what people don't realize, and again, we went through this last elder meeting, but the computer blue screened, so I don't have a recording of it. Those group parts of the site, you have your own forums that you control. You have your own media and images that you can post. You can make your own events. You can put your own, like literally it's making your own website within Larkcraft without leaving the tracking system, without leaving the private scrolls. You know, it's like your own little world within the world of Larkcraft. So the few groups that have used it have only posted positive things about it. There were some questions. We tried to get some, we had to do some remodeling, but it has worked well. And the developer of that add-on has been very, very receptive to all of our suggestions and very quick to respond to the errors that we had found on the front side and the back side. So it's been a very good relationship. So we would like to continue to develop. I know the one thing that a lot of the elders had problems with is it didn't show up on the global calendar. Well, the global calendar is a different program. It'd be really swell, and this is one of the feature requests, would be to have the sidebar like the global event calendar would show up on the main page. What most people don't realize is when you add 100 people to your group, like your hosted chapter. Yeah, branch does sound better. The branch, like when Nick would post in his branch and there's, 78 people in that branch, they all get dinged with that notification. That's a difference with groups. It's more connected. So, and you're starting to experience that with just the private elder group. So from an analytical standpoint, there has been more positive feedback because you get the notifications when something's posted in that group. Now, if you posted 58 things that day, guess what? You're going to have everybody in that group turn off everything. Too many notifications and it's gone. But for keeping track of the food group and the armor group and your armies and your factions and all that stuff, it's pretty awesome. All right. So you could make a group for the 2 factions you manage. Right now, what we're trying to do is make it so that they still have to buy the group. By doing that, they get their community, they get their chat, they get their vault, they get the express written consent of their host. But we could give it away for free. We just wouldn't be able to do the chat and the other stuff. The less admins have to do on the backside of the site, the better. Yeah, and I know you're also trying to do like a script within the site to print a character sheet. You were trying to do that. I know you did it on your end and it looked pretty awesome. Okay, so Pat's got it now. So hopefully we can make something where there's something that's more printable for character sheets. From the university side, we're almost ready to release our first university training. And yeah, for real. So basically they're going to write down their answers. They're going to be able to watch the videos and see the content, answer questions, and then us as administrators will be able to review them and grade them on what they retain from the information within the university course. And then after that, we would then approve them or give them the medal or achievement or whatever it is that they're trying to do. Go ahead, Book.
As a teacher, I just got to ask what type of responses you're looking for here, because grading responses can get extremely tedious. And as a teacher, sometimes I just don't wanna. And I'm going to tell you that whoever is assigned to do this, like that's going to happen. But there are tools that you can use. For instance, if you use a Google form to have them respond, you can use a tool called Flubaroo to have it grade it for you if you have certain types of responses that they're using. So for instance, if you had something that was multiple choice or something where a single word response that had to be the right word was necessary, it can grade it for you and makes that process so much easier. And the person who took it gets instant response.
When you fill out an application on the university, it will give an automated response when you submit something to know that it was verified that we got it. With these university courses, it's how the person perceived the information. So a lot of what they have to submit back is going to be needed to be read by an administrator because we're going to comprehend what it is they're saying. And right now, the only person I have set up on this task is myself. But like I need it for the first thing I want to do is how to become a host. So answering the very basic questions of, you think you can be a host, but here's some things you need to think about before you submit to become a host. You know, there is some legwork involved. There is some investment involved in time and resources. So again, we want quality people to have that. And then yes, Nick, once the process is down, I send it out to the host. The host regurgitate it. The elders regurgitate it. It fine tunes itself. Then we will have people like guardians for each of those courses or administrators for each course, which we can delegate. But the university's been long time needing coming. There's really no LMS. It's a learning management system. There really is nothing for the forum program we have. So we're forging new grounds on some of this stuff. The other thing that I would like to bring up, again, I'll talk about that probably more next Elder meeting in December when we have something to post. One other thing I'd like to bring up is the region of Nordhaven. We're pushing on a, now you're hearing this out of character. I'm trying to do everything I can to push a kingdom and to have rulers for the first time, so we can actually experiment with it and see how it's going to, how players are going to respond to it, how it's going to work in an actual game environment. Raylick has been a master crafter in this endeavor, so is Murdoch, and a few others whose names remain nameless at this point. But the response has been positive and negative. Some players who don't got a grasp on the land management stuff and the title stuff, it's hard for them to bridge the gap. LARPcraft has always been this, and now we introduced things for the land stuff like heraldry, and there's just, these are things we're working with to make the titles and kingdoms and tribal leader stuff happen with a right hierarchy. And people are like, oh my gosh, you're changing the rules. Nope. We've always had banners. We've always had titles. We just need to kind of formalize some process so it doesn't get out of hand. So there's not the but-effers of the forests titles and crap like that that can deter from what we're trying to build. So ask your players at your next meeting if they have any questions about the heraldry stuff, if they have any questions about, grabbing land and making titles. They're seeing new stuff on the site, and I wish there was a way to not show that, but we have to show that because it's evolving as we're doing this. And it's gotten a lot of positive response from some of the user groups that kind of wanted, there was a gap. There's not enough info in LARPcraft. It's like, oh, choose your own adventure, but it's a blank slate. A lot of this stuff doesn't have any content. So now there's some content being created, which is awesome. But yeah, so is there any questions about the heraldry stuff that we started in the group section?
I don't particularly have a question about the heraldry, but since you mentioned that you're trying to set up this kingdom, there is going to be trying to incorporate something that's as socio-political and intricate as a kingdom. I'm going to make a recommendation for you, Artan. There's a video on YouTube by a man named CGP Grey about rules for rulers. And if you want to make that as easy on yourself to kind of incorporate that, I would suggest giving that a watch. It's about 15 minutes, and it will help you kind of smooth things over and actually make that a little bit more, it'll help you grasp some understanding as to what some of the things that you're going to come up against that are going to be unpleasant to deal with.
Challenging.
Yes, challenging.
Yeah, if you could send me that post, that'd be great. We'll try to incorporate as many of these resources as possible. When we started coming up with the heraldry and the land titles and such, that's why I delegated, yes, Nick. I delegated, yes, Nick. I delegated, he's not listening, yes, Nick. I delegated, yes, Nick. I delegated, yep. To the SCA group and some of the others who have so many years of experience with this stuff, how it works within a group. And some of them are not SCA affiliated, but historically we have a really good grasp with those admins on how it has worked, how it's failed, how it's worked, and how it's failed, and how it's worked again. So I'm really trusting in a lot of the elders to smooth the transition. So if you have people who are kind of up in arms about I don't want to be part of a kingdom. Lovecraft was never about kingdoms. It was the understanding that we don't have enough players to make kingdoms. You can't defend a kingdom without an army or resources and all that stuff. We're now getting to that point where we can do that in some areas. But it's not always going to be about the kingdom of whatever. It's not always going to be about which tribal leader is running whatever. So I'm asking elders to take a precaution to advise players that it's part of the progression of getting more players.
I think it might be beneficial to talk whenever you talk to players to help them to understand that even if a kingdom gets set up, that doesn't make you loyal to that kingdom. That's an important distinction to make whenever you're talking about this. You know, there may be someone who sets up a kingdom in your area. That doesn't make your character loyal to that kingdom or to that king. You can totally be part of some sort of like insurrection that might get started to like overthrow that kingdom. It happens all the time. So that might be something to bring up and go, okay, well, yeah, something might get set up here. If you don't like it, your character might want to change it.
And we are hoping for that. From a backside elder standpoint,
that's exactly what we're hoping for.
Yes, because the viral, I need help, I'm going to get everybody into this game that I can, becomes a thing when that objective can be obtained or even thought of. So we hope it'll help us get helped other groups like it has helped real things in history. So we got a lot of positive press with that. The recent HEMA video that you saw, it was a year and a half old. Yeah, just got around to editing it. But we didn't quite have the headshots and all that stuff figured out yet, so I couldn't really post it anyway. We got some really good response from a lot of the HEMA folks. I mean, there was like 187 people who watched that video as of this afternoon, and 19 responses. 19. That's awesome. That's a good ratio. So we're opening up a lot of new user groups to LARP, and a lot of LARPers to formal training, which will help them become better combatants or safer players. So I don't see that synergy is bad. Would you agree, disagree? Book's undecided, or she's frozen, I'm not sure which. Felix gives a thumbs up, so that's all that matters. And then he runs away. Pepper, have you seen, I know Coffs Harbor has done a really good job of using the in-character scrolls, because you folks came online when the in-character scrolls like literally was how things were done. Like you came on the day after that was like the thing. So your group uses the in-character scrolls more than any other group. And it's really fun watching your posts, because some of the players, it almost is like they don't realize that what they're saying is all in character. But 9 times out of 10, it is. So
we have had a few who are like, wait, people now know that? We're like, yeah, it says in character.
So if you need to move some of those and for some reason you can't, let me know and I'll help you with moving those over to the out of game areas. But for the most part, it's swimmingly fun to watch the interaction with that role play and those scrolls.
And there's like a lot of, I guess, in-character drama, because as Lodo pointed out in the chat a minute ago, we've got a council that was elected by the people that the people hate. And why did you elect them? But now they're the enemy. So it's really fun to watch this all play out. Like everyone was like, yeah, the council. And everyone's like, the council? Like those guys.
Self-generating at its best.
That's excellent. And, you know, like in Norhaven, when the Iron Griffin Legion came about, we wanted to have an army presence before we tried to do any kind of ruler, because we know that anytime you put a ruler in play, they're going to be a target. And the role play is going to take off on its own to anti-rule on that ruler. So without a good defense, that ruler doesn't stand a chance. And I think we talked about that in some tavern talks and some other things, that if you make a ruler, you are really going out on a limb. And if you're doing it by yourself, you pretty much don't have a chance. But you got to live and learn on some of these things. But Raylick's done a very good job of posting in Akuma Forest, like, what does it mean? How would the laws work? How is the protection good for you? He's being political in the in-character scrolls about posting these things. And I don't really see that there's been much rebuttal to that. Raylick, have you experienced on-site rebuttals?
My local players, yes, they're all like, we want this. This is so awesome. I haven't heard from the point group, so I have no idea.
Okay.
Quinn and Commodore, I haven't seen them since the last Eskers. And the only one that I know that hangs with them a lot that has posted anything was Dracon, who posted on my poll that he didn't want the kingdom. So they are probably going to walk in. If they show up at Eskers, they're going to walk in and not know what's going on.
Excellent. So we're going to play that one by ear. That's going to be an interesting event this weekend. But it has turned a lot of heads. So hopefully it'll be for the best. It's just nice to see activity again. It's good stuff. Norhaven, from an out-of-game standpoint, what I'm trying to do is collectively look at maybe a committee being formed between 3 LARPcraft hosts. So 3 branches getting together to create some kind of committee or joint leadership out of game to co-host games more often. So Norhaven has a backside that could possibly work to our advantage in that it becomes its own entity. So Duinfell, you guys can make your region in the regions if you wanted to. I took a stab at it with the Norhaven group. That hasn't been done yet. But I think, Book, you have the ability to create a community in that region, in the region section?
Yeah, I can take care of that this week.
Okay. And then just make the hosts the admins of that group, and then, you know, we're still trying to figure out, with the use of the community and with all the tools that we have, how do we not have so much duplication that you get lost? So we all have our own private parts of the site. But how often are you going to want to get notifications for, you know, LARPcraft or Sheboygan practices? Raylick shouldn't get dinged every week for our practices. That's like a Norhaven thing. Norhaven's like the bigger part. So the branches have their own separate things for the practices and little things. But if you get a ding from Norhaven, that's going to be a collective thing or a bigger event or something. So I don't have all the answers for that yet, but Let me just ask a question. Do you know what the final version of LARPcraft is designed to look like? What's the ultimate goal of LARPcraft? I'm quizzing you, elders.
Cowboy LARP.
What?
The ultimate goal is a cowboy LARP.
Cowboy LARP, says Pepper, yes. Her Western fascination is unmatched.
I'm going to go with slowly try to take over the world.
That's impossible, but that's
I went all Pinky in the Brain on it, so.
did. Much appreciated. Anybody else?
To make a worldwide community of LARPers that work in the same universe.
Getting warmer.
War.
Just put us out of our misery.
We're trying to build the tools, like Pepper said, to have a worldwide community. We want to have a local presence with regional, national, and international events at some point. We know that from a local standpoint, Nick's group can't host something when there's a gamer who's 30 or 40 minutes away. But at the same token, 2 or 3 of these hosts can co-promote an event to bring together hundreds and hundreds of people and co-promote something so fantabulous that it's unmatched because we can pool in that community. So the ultimate goal of LARPcraft is to have a host in every possible community and to make the resources available for hosts to form. But the tier system was put in place so that as a host progresses, they are able to do more things. We want hosts to be able to work together to create things that are unmatched in the LARP community. One host cannot do what 3, 5, or 10 hosts can do. And you need that many people when you start getting to 1,000 people a game or more. So, and that's really as basic as it is. The other game systems, I don't know if that's going to be a deterrent or an attribute. I really don't. It's up there because that was the original vision, was to have to pull from so many different LARP interests to make that community. But I'm still not convinced that that's going to be the right model. But they're there now. I don't know.
It's a goal.
It's a goal.
It's a goal. Also, cowboys.
Cowboys are a goal. Anybody have any questions on that, on what LARPcraft was designed for? Or add to it?
See, totally drinking a cowboy LARP, like the saloon, whiskey and shit, and just walk around like I'm Clint Eastwood, yo, in a less accent that doesn't sound exactly like that, more like Clint Eastwood.
And Bex, you were the first one to use a curse word. Thank you.
Every time.
Not every time. I'm usually beating you to that punch.
I've been guilty once or twice.
Yeah, that is true. Well, circling back around, does anybody have anything else for this elder meeting? Because I think it went really well. We got a lot accomplished. We talked about a lot of things, and we made progress. Lodo Pros LARPcraft would be a millionaire. LARPcraft was set up as a corporation with shares on purpose so that when it becomes profitable, the hosts and the people who make LARPcraft possible share in its success. It was always made to be given back in its entirety.
Yeah, but if the amount of deaths from our camp came out, we would be millionaires. We've got one chick who dies like 5 times a session.
I posted that in the Elder or in the Esker game. We're really trying to make it where if somebody dies, it almost stops the event. It's like, oh my gosh. We're trying to really dramatize that death a little bit more.
Actually, we had a really good one at our weekend event that we had. Draven got killed, and one of his little taverny people, I'm assuming, did he work for you? I don't know who he was in the game in relation, because I was just NPCing.
No, he never worked for the tavern at all. He was just another person. He did happen to be my
He lost his crap. He broke down. He was sobbing on the ground. I was like, what do I do? He was literally so in character that he was so upset by this murder. And then Driftwood, he was flipping tables. He got so mad when you died. It was so good. I was like, I'm so proud of you guys.
Yeah, but I want to see this now. I want to see him flip tables.
Me too. Record that on your portable device. Even if it's just a snippet and post it on Snapchat. Whatever. I just want to see it. Oh, he flips tables. He really flipped tables. Look at that. All right. The other thing, as we come into close here, if you could post some stories in the lore section. We're having a hard time. There's a lot of blankness in Miriam. There's a lot of things that could be written in the World Library. And the World Library, the codex of the World Libraries, eventually it becomes books that we can share. So we can actually have these game props at locations if possible. But like timelines, what is the freaking date? That bothers me to no end. I can't categorize things when there's no date. And would it be the date of Tay? Would it be the date of a deity? Would it be a date of the people? Or there's no lore to substantiate any timeline. And we're using Gaelic and pagan, and we're using Christianity, and we're using all these things to kind of give us an association. But that's not in our Miriam system. It's like we're jumping to those because we have no other basis of time. So if we could make some clever, cool Miriam posts about the seasons and time frames and stuff, oh, would that be swell? Because then it can really connect a lot of that lore. People can't post some of this lore because they don't know how to post it.
Locally, we do have something that kind of gives us an idea of when things occur. We have a timeline of when everyone but the Narhenin believes the timeline is, which is basically whatever Miriam world the date is. But then the Narhenins have their own specific calendar based on when they were lost. And so if you get anything from the elves, it's all based on the Narhenin calendar, which is different, which I kind of think is cool for different groups to have different ways that they reckon time.
But to be able to post it and to have it categorized in some fashion allows us to use it. Mm-hmm. I understand that having it local and the nice little egg of this is ours, we're not going to share. That's a real thing that needs to stay there. But from a world timeline, like
in true Narhenin fashion, I'm happy to share with you the correct reckoning of time.
Okay, good. Then make it so. I don't know if anybody would even rebuttal it. So
we'll see.
I'll see.
Yeah, that's one of the things I have been struggling with, trying to write more for the whole mystic lore. It's just sort of struggling to really, I suppose, mix it in with everything else that's already there, so it sort of meshes with world lore and timelines, because it's sort of, yeah, it sort of makes it rather difficult to really match things in and come up with ways to sort of make it tie in with everything.
I think a lot of players are afraid of contradicting world lore that, to be honest, doesn't exist.
Book, were you part of that? When we made the original world lore, it was basically Ronan and Ufnar inventing crap off the top of their head. We needed something as a backbone. The idea and premise in some of these meetings in the past was that eventually the world lore would be conflicting, and the ideas and ideals of the players playing those characters will supersede what the world lore was. So eventually the world lore as we see it today will no longer exist because it's being developed from players at games as their characters.
And we have. I think the reason why players haven't posted a ton of that is they're afraid that it's going to contradict lore that exists, but a lot of that lore doesn't exist. They just maybe think that it does and don't know where to find it.
So as elders, we can go ahead and at our next practices and elder meetings, possibly bring that up and be like, look, there's a world lore timeline. It's a timeline just so that there was something there. It gives us a rough idea, but there's no specifics. And if you find a different specific, like vampires, for instance, they weren't a thing in the system until we played it out, and the characters literally invented something as the game was happening.
Well, and I've got several vampires that are wanting to write some lore as to where the vampires came from. And they're like, is this going to contradict something? I'm like, I don't know, but let's look at the world as it is today. How many origin stories do we have? Hundreds, thousands of origin stories. We don't know which one's right. Write the one that you like, and we'll put it out there, and maybe people will like it, and maybe people won't like it.
And that's funny because as the regimes change, they'll pick the lore that they think is right. They'll base their kingdoms and tribal factions and stuff off of it. Then when they're overthrown, if they are, it almost changes history because the other factions are like, this was not the way. I mean, look at how the world is. That's
true life. That's the way history has happened.
It's cool.
Okay, I'm going to tell them then, just start writing their stories. And, if it contradicts something, then we just have contradictory lore, and people are free to choose the lore that fits. According, they can believe what they want to believe. That's what I'm going with. That sounds like fun to me. I would love to see people with conflicting lore go up and get into a fight over the origin story of vampires and where they came from.
This is how wars start. Dang it.
Hey. Wars are much easier to start than that.
Oh, really?
Victors write history.
Yeah. And successors to those victors rewrite history, and so on and so forth. I would love to see the first vampire of Gandalhar and Norhaven come across the first vampire of Whisper Ridge or of Duinfell, and like, oh my gosh, these two lores are conflicting now. What's happening? And then something else happens because that game, the two big shots were there. And then they came up with a story that, oh, now it connects somehow. Then something is more concrete. But it happened in game. So, yeah.
I just want to see the conflict. I want to see two people go, no, your lore doesn't make sense. It can't be this because it's this. And I want to see them argue it out. That just seems like fun to me.
And then Vesh comes in.
Oh, Vesh.
Oh, Vesh, indeed.
We really want to see Vesh become a global character. We really do.
Okay, so we got a lot of energy. Bring it out into the world. Let's share it, and then we'll reconvene next month and see how the site has progressed. Thank you all for attending the Elder meeting for November 2016. If you have any comments, post it below in the Elder section. If you're watching this and have any questions for the elders and you're not an elder and somehow this video is public, thanks for watching. This is how elder meetings work. Thanks. See you next time.